Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be going over some more endgames, but a little more advanced. So this can be taken as like a part 2 to my last video, which was some more basic and more fundamental endgame positions. This is kind of like a little bit more advanced and a little bit less common in every endgame position. So first I'm going to start with technique that I read it. I'm pretty sure it was from Mr. Stillman's book as like a fox in the chicken coop. So that sounds like a funny name, but it'll make sense after I play this. Okay, so in this case, um, the strategy of white is to obviously try to promote here, right? That would be like the best outcome for white in this position. However, as we've learned, um, if you draw a square or a triangle, either works. If you draw a square, then the black's king is in the square, and that means that black can catch up to this pawn and stop it from promoting. So I can just play this out real quick. But here, it's still worth it. If I go back, it's still worth it to push this pawn, and here's why. Because when you push this pawn, you are forcing black's king to move to the left side. So when you keep pushing it up, you force the king to move from here to here to here. And what that does is that it creates a way for white's king to actually invade and capture these pawns. So let's say I actually do this. I'll add this pawn here just because here, but yeah. So the point of the lesson is the same. So it goes here. Um, so white would move here. White would just give up this pawn and say, okay, I'll give up this pawn, but I'm just going to take all your pawns back. So I'm actually going to gain like 2 to 3 pawns. So black doesn't have any like good way to like defend these pawns, and even if they did, that would mean leaving this pawn. So black has to waste another move to take it, and now white easily goes here and invades. So I would say black's best move would be something like this. You could just take. You can do anything you want. I would probably just go up here. Then black doesn't really have much to do, and this is an easy win for white. I'll just finish this move off, or finish this sequence off. Sorry. And then this is so the point was that you kind of baited black's king to moving away from defending their pawns and from the center, or any situation in an endgame like this where you kind of bait your opponent's pawn out by pushing a pawn that you are willing to give up. You are willing to give up that pawn just so you can get more of a chance to take your opponent's pawns. So here we saw that black's king went away, and the fox, which is kind of like the king, your white king, is gobbling up all these helpless chickens, the pawns, in a chicken coop, which is like that area where all the pawns are located, and just easily taking them and capturing them, and which will lead to victory. Um, so even if I didn't add this pawn here, this sort of I think would have ended up in a draw. But either way, that's a good result because white was down a pawn, right, in an endgame that's severely magnified. So the next example that I want to go over is looking at how to stop pawns from proning if they are rook pawns. So black is in the square. So it's here. that easily black will be able to catch it. But instead, what if white also pushed its king with the pawn? So it's like this. Okay, so I'm not going to play this sequence out too much, but this is just a sequence. The point is that even if the king moves up, it's not going to be able to stop a draw like before. And the general rule of these types of positions is that if the black king can control these two squares, or even this one, I guess, by default, then it's a draw. It doesn't matter. I mean, it could be a win if black has another pawn too, but it's at least a draw because, or unless white, just if there's a position like this where white only has one pawn, it's a draw. There's no way that white can remove black's king, and it's automatic. So if you're in a position where you're defending, make sure to try to go there as fast as you can, as directly as you can, to try to stop the checkmates. And if you're the one with the extra pawn, the side with the extra pawn, then you should protect those squares. Try to move your king out here, something like this, and to stop black from controlling the squares. Okay, the last example, something easy to end it up the video with. Okay, so here it's white's turn to move. Instead of white moving their king directly there, there's a way better move, and that's moving the pawn up. So what this does is it actually stops this pawn from moving and also this pawn from moving, because if this pawn moves up, then obviously it can take it. So this one pawn can actually stop these two pawns, and now these two pawns are worth the same as one pawn. So now you were losing before, you were down a pawn, you looked like a lost game, and now you're suddenly, it's equal. So let's say black goes here, and here you can actually end up capturing these. If you're careful, you can even win. So moves like this, which stop both pawns with one, are really good. This also works with this, stops 3 pawns at once, and they don't have to be double, like pawn moves, like where the pawn moves twice on the same move, or on the first move. It can be any type. It just has to kind of control the front squares like this. So anyways, that's probably it for this video, and I will see everyone in the next one.